grammar time today. You're going to need your language arts notebook, and you're probably going to want a glue stick, scissors, and a pencil to help us. To get started, though, we're going to do a quick little mini lesson before we do our notebook entry for today. So we're talking about quotation marks in part 1. So we're going to talk this week and next week and probably the week after, because next week's a short week, about using quotation marks in our writing and in our reading too, as we're reading words. Quotation marks are punctuation marks used to show a direct quote from a speaker. Just talk to me too. Tell me, what exactly are quotation marks? Reread that definition out loud so you get it in your brain. Punctuation marks used to show a direct quote from a speaker. So we use a lot of different kinds of punctuation to show what a speaker's saying. Most of the time, we're going to use opening quotation marks at the start of what we're saying, then closing quotation marks, a comma in there, and we end our sentences with a period. So let's take a look at a few examples, okay? There's some other way too, and we'll talk about that next week. That's why we have 2 parts, okay? So these sentences, we have turn your homework into the tray, said Mrs. Wolpe. But notice we have a quotation mark, an opening one to start, a comma, and then our ending quotation marks. And we end our sentence with a period. Sentences need all of these parts to be correct. So like number 2, it has our quotation marks where the person starts talking, a comma after the last word, and then those end quotation marks. And we have a period at the end of our sentence so we know that the sentence is done. Okay, same for this one, but it's a little different because we start with Francisco explained or Jackie said. Instead of having the comma in our quotation marks like before, we have it outside of it, and we have our period inside our quotation marks. Okay, so we either need the comma in the quotation marks or a period in there and our comma before. One of them kind of switches out depending on where our quotes are in the sentence. So let's do a practice one. Okay, Frank said, I would like lasagna for dinner. They are working together, Mrs. Bryant told the other students. This is my field trip money, repeated Mallory. So you try fixing these 3 sentences. What punctuation is missing? The punctuation they have is right, but they're missing some. Pause the video if you need more time to think through them. All right, so first sentence, you should have added that comma after said. For the second one, you should have had the ending quotation marks. Did you get it after the comma? Remember, that's included in theirs, okay? And then for the bottom one, you needed the comma and then the end quotation marks. Sometimes we can have sentences with a question mark or an exclamation mark, and those look a little different. Okay? They still have an opening and an ending quotation mark. But then instead of like that comma or that period inside those quotations, they're going to have a question mark or an exclamation mark. And then the sentences need to end with a period. Let's look at a few examples. Okay? Where is the bathroom? Asked Toby. So it ends in a period because it's a telling sentence, but Toby is asking the question, so we need that question mark. And notice our quotation marks, our end and our beginning are around that whole sentence. Same with get outside, exclamation mark, and we have our end quotation after the exclamation. Yelled Mom, period. So it's your turn to practice with these kind of sentences. Oh, just kidding. One more practice example for Mrs. Wells. So sometimes we can start our sentence with kind of their telling part, right? Like Bernie cried, and then what did Bernie cry out loud? I can't do this anymore. He has then an exclamation because he cried it kind of loud. And then we have our quotation marks. Okay? And Christine, comma, asked. Just like before, that comma still comes after like that action word. When is this due? Question mark and their end quotation marks. So you try this practice one. Okay? And you pause the video while you look through these 3, okay? and unpause when you're ready to check them. All right, let's look at those answers. What is the answer? Asked Tommy. You needed quotation. What is the answer? Question mark quotation. Asked Tommy, and a period at the end. Did you get that period? Sentence 2. Quotation mark. Stop! Exclamation mark. Quotation marks. Screamed Jasmine. And number 3. Mr. Sterling asked, comma, quotation, who is going with you? Question mark. Then the quotation marks. All right, so what we are going to do is work on our notebook page. So go ahead, and you're going to need your scissors and your glue to cut it out and glue it in your notebook. And then we are going to not write the sentences. Instead, we are going to work with them. And then I'll show Miss as well. So let's get our stuff out. All right, so we have our worksheet here. And what I would do is I would cut this out and glue it in my notebook, but I'm going to use it again later, so I'm not going to cut it out. So you can cut all around this whole thing and just glue it in as one big piece, okay? Then what you're going to do is you're going to use a highlighter or a marker. I'm going to use a pencil because, like I said, I'm going to reuse this. And we're going to add punctuation to these sentences. We're going to fix them, okay? So looking at the first one. I take care of my puppy, said Alex. So I know that we need our opening quotation marks around what they said. I take care of my puppy. And then I have that said Alex. So that's not what she said. I take care of my puppy is. So I know I need a comma after my last word that they said. And then the quotation marks. And there's one more thing missing from this sentence. That period after Alex. So you try these next 3 and unpause the video when you're ready to see those answers. All right, let's look over those. So number 2, or the second one, should have been quotation marks. Where is the summer camp located? Question mark, or quotation marks, and then a period after grandma. The third one should be the quotation marks. She can help you. Exclamation mark. And then end quotation marks. Mom exclaimed. I knew this was an exclamation mark because it said Mom exclaimed. Okay. Now, the last one. Christopher asked, we need that comma, opening quotation marks, who walks to school? Question mark, and then end quotation marks. All right. That's what we did today. All right, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining.